let me get everyone's attention, if you will, get in place. With Commissioner Rivers walking in, we in good shape, all right? I was trying to make sure we could start pre-meeting and not be in violation of nothing, because I don't want no more letters going to the Attorney General. Got enough of that. Yeah, we got enough of that going on. We're not trying to hide anything from anybody. All right, we had technical difficulties. In fact, I still have some issues with my electronics that I got to get IT to do after the meeting today, okay? All right. So this is pre-meeting, and let me ask now, as we go through this, to call the order, the invocation, and inspiration, and then the Pledge of Allegiance. And let me ask Commissioner Rivers if he will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance today. All right. Then we have the certificate of appreciation and the roll call, proclamations, recognizing April 10th through the 16th as 911 Telecommunications Week, and then proclamation recognizing April as Child Abuse Awareness Month. Then we have our Employee Service Awards. Okay. Then we don't have a chairman's item or a commissioner item. There's an item that's on the table that we decided at the workshop the other day, we're gonna let it stay on the table, okay? Unless something changed between then and now. Then we have the items for individual action. Is there any commissioner who needs clarification on anything on the individual items? Item for individual action, is there any, we have staff here who can clear up if you have any questions concerning anything.
Are we making a presentation for the ARPA money?
Yes, yes,
What was it?
there is, she's talking about number 2. There is,
We're having a presentation for.
right,
Strategic Planning Office.
yeah. We have someone from the firm we've hired.
The third party, and we have Ms. Blackshear
Ms.
here,
Blackshear,
so.
they're gonna come up and do the
Yeah.
presentation for
Yeah.
us, yes.
Tara Jennings will introduce and
Right.
get started.
Right. All right. Anything else now on the individual action? Individual items for individual action. Okay, nothing? All right, anything on the action calendar that anyone, commissioner, needs, things that they need to pull off or they need more clarification? 1 through 12, and then the items A through M, I'm sorry, on the action calendar. Anything? Okay, and hearing nothing. Okay, then we go to the items for the first reader, and we would just read that into the records.
That's just
That's
say
all, just
first reading
reading.
today, no discussion.
No discussion, just reading,
Yes, sir.
okay? Then the second readers, we will go and, again, let me announce what the manager had announced. If there's anyone here who would like to be heard during the second reading of proposal number 1 or proposal number 2, please go to the, and sign up at this time in between now and the time that we start our regular meeting at 9:30, okay?
Yeah, we stated, Mr. Chairman, we do have 2. One is the proposed amendments, text amendment on accessory building structures. Number 2 is the Johnny Mercer item.
All right, is anyone here who wants to speak on any of those? Please, ma'am, please, sir, sign up. All right, so we can keep it in order. And then we'll go to informational item, and Mr. Manager will inform us of the information we need to adhere to, okay? Also, there is a need for us to have executive sessions for appointments, litigation, and personnel.
Correct.
Okay. So we will have an executive session after this section is over. All right? No questions from anyone, from any commissioner? Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just in trying to see what the intent of the number one on the second reading, if I understand this correctly, is how does this fit in with the International Building Code?
I need to get, did you hear that, let's see, NPC present? No, Greg, are you comfortable on that, to discuss
I mean,
that?
Mr. Chairman, if you want to wait until we're in the regular meeting for clarification, I don't mind.
Okay,
I just want,
good, because I'll have NPC here and, you know, so they can double team.
I just want to make sure that,
All right.
that we know exactly
Sure.
what this is.
So that means Mr. Anderson need to stick around, and
Yes.
also the folks from MPC need to be here.
Yeah, they'll be here
All right,
before
they'll be here.
9:30. Yes, sir.
Okay?
Okay.
They sent me some stuff with this stick on top of my desk. I'm not reading all that. I just got it this morning. Can't get through that today. So I'm gonna depend on them to get us through that. And so I'm just letting Mr. Anderson know now, when the rest of the staff get dismissed, you can't go nowhere. 'Cause when we get to that second reader, Commissioner Stone will have some questions about that, okay? All right. Anything else now? This pre-meeting, anything else in pre-meeting? If not, according to the clock on the wall, it's now 12 after, okay? So in the next 18 minutes, we will start our regular meeting at 9:30, all right? Okay.
Oyez, oyez, oyez. Silence is commanded by this honorable commission. All those having business, draw near.
Thank you, and you may be seated at this time. Let me ask now, again, I want to make the announcement that if you're here about any of the second readers that is on the docket for today on the agenda, you need to sign up if you want to speak, all right, so that we'll have you. Now, once we start the process, it will be too late for you to sign up, all right? So if you're here and you want to sign up, please, ma'am, please, sir, go to the corner of the manager's table there and make sure your name is on the list. Even if you sign up and then decide you want to change your mind, that's fine too. But if you don't sign up, you can't change your mind, okay? I want to make sure you understand where we're going. The other thing I want to make sure you do is, please, ma'am, please, sir, turn off your cell phones, including the commissioners, all right? I leave all mine in the office. I don't bring them out here, so I don't have to worry about it going off. Because if it goes off now, the deputy is going home with a heavy pocket, because they're gonna confiscate your cell phone, and that's something we don't even need to get into. So, please, ma'am, please, sir, check your cell phone. At this time, we're gonna call the March 25th, 2022 commission meeting to order. And our first order of business, we will have our inspiration and an invocation from a good friend of mine, the Reverend Dr. Bernita Rivers Smalls, who will come to us. She's a graduate of ITC located in Atlanta, Georgia, Savannah State University, and Jacksonville Theological Seminary. She has diligently and faithfully served the Lord and his people for 30 years of pastoral leadership and service to the Second Bethlehem Baptist Church. She was recognized and honored by Governor Zell Miller as the first female to pastor a Baptist church in Chatham County when she took the helm of her home church in 1990 and became the first woman to build a church in Savannah Historic District at Montgomery and Huntington Street in Savannah, Georgia. She is the founder, president, and CEO of Life Skills for Empowerment Center, Incorporated, where more than 25 local ministries have served on its board, and she was endorsed by the Savannah Baptist Ministers Union and has served as the first female president and vice president of the Savannah Baptist Ministers Union. And I can also say that she has served with the Interdenominational Ministerial Alliance and the Savannah Alliance of Pastors. I know because we serve there together. We do a whole lot of work together, not only in Chatham County, but throughout the state of Georgia. At this time, I'm going to call Dr. Smalls to the podium, and I ask that once she gets ready for prayer, that we all stand and have prayer, and then after prayer, then we will have the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag led by Commissioner Rivers. Good morning and welcome.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, and this illustrious board of commissioners. Good morning again. You know, as a Baptist pastor, sometimes we find it's a little difficult in the mornings to get the parishioners all stirred up. But when I woke up this morning and I thought about Ukraine, somebody say amen, and thought about how blessed we are, my heart just cried out, hallelujah. How many of you can say this morning that here in Chatham County, because of the commissioners, that we feel safe? I feel safe getting up in the morning. I feel safe going to bed at night because of the decisions that you make. We are blessed and highly favored to be in Savannah. And I'm grateful this morning that I was thought of to come out and share a few words with you. But if you bow your heads, we can go to someone that's much higher than any of us. And I believe we can get the results that we need. Bless you this morning as your heads are bowed. Thank you so much for standing. Father, it is the commissioners of Chatham County that I'm bringing before you this morning just to say thank you. God, thank you so much that these individuals had opposition and they ran a race that Chatham County is proud of, and they became our representatives. We are grateful that they are competent. They are competent servants. They are wise in their wisdom. They have knowledge and divine understanding. But most so than anything, they care about this county. This county is primarily a starting point, and yet it has not ended as to what they are able to do and how proud we are of them. We ask that you bless this meeting. We bless everyone that's represented here today, that we know that not only fairness, but we know growth and development starts here, and we are the recipients of it. We thank you so much for all, God, that you have done for us and our respective places and religions. And today we say amen, amen, and amen.
Amen. Earl Rivers. Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. You may be seated. And let me say to Reverend Dr. Smalls, we want to thank you for coming today with us. And we are, unfortunately, we can't pass the hat, nor can we pass the basket to pay you. It's not allowed, but please accept this token of our appreciation of you coming and sharing the words with us and reminding us of our duties and responsibilities to all the citizens of Chatham County. Again, let me say thank you. Roll call.
Chester A. Ellis, Chairman.
Present.
Kenneth A. Adams, District 8, Vice Chairman.
Present.
Helen L. Stone, District 1, Chairman Pro Tem.
Present.
Larry Gator Rivers, District 2.
Present.
Bobby Lockett, District 3.
7. Present.
Patrick K. Farrell, District 4.
Here.
Tanya Milton, District 5.
Present.
Aaron Whiteley, District 6.
Here.
Dean Kicklider, District 7.
Let me have a motion and a second from a commissioner to excuse Commissioner Kicklider because of family reasons.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Properly motion and second that Commissioner Kicklider be excused for family reasons. Are you ready for the question? Please vote. All right, thank you. This time, as we move through our agenda, proclamation and special presentations. The first proclamation come recognizing April the 10th through the 16th, 2022 as 911 Telecommunication Week in Chatham County. There is a proclamation that we will read, and then we will call on the Director Pinkney to receive it and to make comments that she would love to make. The County of Chatham, Georgia, proclamation. Whereas it was with conception of Patricia Anderson of the Cocoa County, California Sheriff's Office in 1981 to dedicate the second full week of April to the men and women who serve as public safety telecommunicators. And whereas in an emergency, most Americans depend on 911 each day, countless public safety communicators answer desperate calls for help, responding with services that save the lives and properties of citizens in need of assistance. And whereas the safety of our police officers, firefighters, and emergency medical service is dependent upon quality and accuracy of information obtained from citizens who telephone the 911 Communications Center. Now, therefore, I, Chester Ellis, Chairman on behalf of the Chatham County Board of Commissioners, do hereby proclaim the week of April 10th through the 16th, 2022, as 911 Telecommunications Week in Chatham County to recognize that our health and safety and well-being are often dependent on the commitment and the steadfast devotion of public safety telecommunicators, and urge all citizens to observe this week with the appropriate programs, celebrations, activities, and appreciations for the outstanding individual. In witness whereof, I have hereto set my hand and caused the seal of Chatham County, Georgia, to be affixed this 25th day of March 2022. Ms. Pinkney, we put it up there already?
Not yet, no.
Please accept this proclamation on behalf of all the commissioners here for the job that you and your staff do to help us in our hour of desperation.
It gives me great honor to stand here this morning and thank each and every one of you for acknowledging the 911 Center on behalf of what they do. During this pandemic, I've seen some very committed people. They stayed the course, and they certainly do deserve to be acknowledged as the first responders. So thank you so very much for acknowledging us. On last year alone, we handled over 528,000 calls came into the 911 Center. And from that 528, over 600,000 calls for service were generated. So they do a lot more than just answer the phone. All of those phone calls generate up to 3, maybe 4 different types of responses. So they're very busy. We run a very busy, fast-paced center, and we just want to show them all the love that we can so that they will stay the course with us and make the 911 Center a career choice for them. So thank you very much, and God bless you. Pray for us as we pray for you.
Any commissioner want to comment?
Well, I just
Mr.
want to say
Chairman.
thank you for your service.
Okay.
Okay.
Commissioner Lockett?
Likewise, I'd like to thank you for saving lives.
Thank you so much, sir.
Any other? Thank you, ma'am, for the job you all do. Continue to keep up the good work. All
Thank
right?
you so much.
And things will get better.
We're confident, very
All right.
confident. Thank you so much.
Thank you, ma'am. Our next proclamation declaring April as Child Abuse Awareness Month, and we have 2 members from the Coastal Children's Advocacy Center who will be here to receive and accept the proclamation, and the proclamation read: The County of Chatham, Georgia, proclamation. Whereas child abuse and neglect are serious problems affecting every segment of our community, and finding solutions require input and actions from everyone because our children are our most valuable resources and will shape the future of Chatham County. And whereas child abuse can have long-term psychological, emotional, and physical effects that last, consequently for victims of abuse, and protective factors are conditions that reduce or eliminate risks and promote the social, emotional, and developmental well-being of our children. And whereas effective child abuse prevention activities succeeds because of the partnership created between children welfare professionals, education, health, faith-based organizations, business, law enforcement agencies, and families. Now, therefore, I, Chester A. Ellis, Chairman on behalf of the Chatham County Board of Commissioners, do hereby proclaim the month of April 2022 as Child Abuse Awareness Month in Chatham County, and urge all citizens to increase their participation in countywide effort to prevent child abuse and neglect. Appreciate the Coastal Children's Advocacy Center for 30 years of providing much-needed service to our children and Chatham County. In witness whereof, I have hereto set my hand and caused the seal of Chatham County, Georgia, to be affixed this 25th day of March 2022. And I'm going to ask now Alex Mack. Oh, there they go. Good. And listen, Gloria, you got Grill on here.
That's my
You know you a Gibbs. I'm just teasing. That's my friend. All right. Thank you all for being here, and let me say how proud we are of you for the service that you render to our children. And I just want to say that I know it comes from the heart, because what you do is really not payable for all that you do for children. So therefore, we have to give you what we have. And, you know, we often say in the Baptist church, if I had 10,000 tongues, I could not thank you enough. But we just want to thank you with what we have, and we turn the floor over to you.
Thank you for this. This is a great honor. National Child Abuse Prevention Month recognizes the importance of families and communities coming together to prevent child abuse awareness, working with our community partners such as DFACS, law enforcement, and other communities in the community. We acknowledge the programs, and we like to implement activities to keep our community thriving. We also understand that with these children that we work with, a lot of times people hear what we do and they're like, oh man, but we provide therapeutic services and play to children, and they thrive in the community. And it starts with the kids, it starts at home, and it starts with the parents. In 2021, we work with 256 kids, and we still understand the importance of the awareness of child abuse. Not everybody talks about it, and so that is the stigma that we are fighting to this day. It's important to implement that education piece because we feel like prevention is the #1 defense for our family and children, and we strive, such as Ms. Gloria right here, we strive every day to work with kids to promote child abuse awareness.
So, thank you very much for honoring us.
Thank you all for being here, and again, let me say thank you for all you do. Any commissioner? Any commissioner? Okay. Thank you all so much. We appreciate that.
Thank you.
At this time, let me call upon the manager as he will bring forth the director of our HR program.
Yes, sir. Ms. Chairman and board members, good morning. I want to ask Carolyn Smalls, Director of the Team Chatham Human Resources. We are always very proud to recognize all of our team members for their years of service, their dedication and commitment, and we are looking forward to bringing them back in here because they like to be on TV. So we're looking at doing that. So I'll be talking to the chairman about the possibility of the next one, bringing people in. So anyway, and that per the health department. So anyway, with that, I'll turn it over to Ms. Smalls for the service awards.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. Good morning, Chairman Ellis. Good morning, commissioners. As always, it gives me such great pleasure to present the Employee Service Awards to recognize our team members who have achieved a service milestone this month. Today, I'm pleased to present 23 outstanding team members who are recognizing service milestones ranging from 20 years of service to 5 years of service. Through the years, all of their talents and efforts have helped Chatham County's growth and success. They are part of the reason that Chatham County enjoys a great reputation in the community and among its peers. Our team members are the foundation of all that we do, and that's something that we'll never forget or take for granted. Together, we take pride in their accomplishments and their commitments to service. We're proud of each one of our team members being recognized today. We thank them for their service, we appreciate their contributions, and we applaud them for their commitment to serve the citizens of Chatham County. So please join me in recognizing our March 2022 honorees. Again, congratulations to our team members on achieving their service milestones. We thank them for their dedicated service to Chatham County and look forward to their continued contributions to Team Chatham. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Again, we say thank you to all of our members of Team Chatham for the work you do to make things safer here in Chatham County. Let me do this at this time. Let me recognize the other constitutional officers that are in our presence. I saw the sheriff earlier. Did he leave? Okay, and I see the tax commissioner. Commissioner Jackson is here. Is there another? Okay. All right, thank you. We thank you for being in our presence today. There are no chairman items or commissioner items. There is one item that's on the table that we have decided shall stay on the table for right now. Okay, so that board of approval of an amendment to the Fire Protection Service Tax Ordinance, it will still be tabled. Then we go to items for our individual action on the transmittal of the June 30th, 2021 single audit report. Mr. Manager. Is Ms. Davis one? Okay.
Can we do this? Let's go to number 2 and I'll
And
see
find
what's
her?
going on.
All right, yeah, let's see.
Okay.
All right, then let's go now to the ARPA Small Business Grant Program presentation.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to call up Ms. Tara Jennings with our Strategic Planning Office, and she'll have some introductions and a program that that Team Chatham is thrilled to be able through the American Rescue Planning Act to allow for some aid to our small businesses through the COVID and pandemic.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman.
Morning.
And Board. If you all will recall, roughly about last August, we had some fun playing with Monopoly money. And some of you decided to put your funds at that point in time into small business assistance. And so we have executed a contract with iParametrics to begin implementing that as a third-party vendor. And I have with me today Ms. Emily and Ms. Blackshear as part of iParametrics, and they're going to do a brief overview of the small business grant opportunity that we have coming up, and then we'll answer any questions that you have. And so I'm going to turn it over to them.
Good morning, Mr.
Good
Chairman.
morning.
Good morning, Commissioner members. Very excited to be here and support small businesses. I'm going to quick overview. So first we have our registration page for our grant program. This page gives a quick overview to small businesses, and they go through this registration page. They find the criteria for the grant, they fill out the contact information, pre-qualification questions, and they submit that. Once they submit, they get an email notification to verify their email. From there, they get the application link to their email as well. This is a quick overview, a few screenshots of our application. First, we have general business information where the business fills out a little bit of information about their business, as well as attaching tax returns, their current payroll, W-9. They also attach their current business license and their occupational tax certificate. And if they need any assistance gathering that information, we're able to provide that. Next, they go into choosing the options for grant. First, we have the Reimbursement Relief Grant. Second, we have the Future Mitigation Plans Relief Grant. Businesses are able to apply for both of these grants and split the funds however they see fit, up to $25,000 total. Next, we go into grant budget, where they choose the grant type they're applying for, how much funds, and a little bit about their funds. How are they going to spend it? How are they looking to relieve some of that COVID impact? Also, they have to attach expense documentation. So what are they planning to spend the funds on or get reimbursed on? And I will let you take over the map.
So what Emily just presented you with was an online application. If you recall, just to kind of give a quick review of the program, the board did approve a $1.5 million allocation to this initiative. And we anticipate that that will roughly help about 50 organizations or businesses. They can apply up to 25,000. So if all of them get 25, then that's going to beat our max. If there are less awards, then we have more to give out. So it just kind of depends on how much we bring back with award processes. As Emily mentioned, an individual organization business can apply in 2 categories. One is for reimbursement of what they've already done that was COVID-related, or a mitigation plan moving forward. But the max award would only be $25,000. And the other thing is we're going to start initially in the unincorporated area as per our instruction, and be prepared to pivot countywide as that seems necessary. In addition, in your packet, you received kind of a timeline that's drafted at this point that outlines the small business grant application. It looks like this if you have that sheet of paper. And so as Emily described, there will be a link available on our website they will click on. We will determine their eligibility at that point. Assuming they meet that criteria, they will then receive a link to the full application. So the application itself will not be available to all persons. We want to make sure that they're clear the eligibility first. And following that, they'll be asked to submit some documentation, which is also in your packet. I believe you have a flyer that looks like this, and we will work with the manager's office and the clerk's office. Emily and the team at Our Parametrics have created a social media post that you can use on your own platforms to help promote this initiative. We plan to go live on April the 1st.
I do want to say, and if you have any questions, please ask those, but today at 1 o'clock, we have a press conference media event to kick this off, to give people opportunity to start putting your tax documents, your financials together, because you're going to have all of that information. And folks like, experts like Ms. Blackshear are going to be going through that very carefully. So we make sure we're meeting all the federal requirements and those type of things. But with that, Ms. Chairman, it's at 1 o'clock in this room. We will have all the press here to get this kicked off. But with that, any questions from the board, Mr. Chairman?
Any commissioner have any questions? Any commissioners? Okay. All right, Commissioner Middleton from 5.
Good morning. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm happy that you're probably going through the criteria first, because you're gonna be overwhelmed with a bunch of applications if you didn't. So they have to qualify first, and then you'll send them the application to apply. That's a good thing, and I'm happy that you guys are working together to determine whether it's relevant or not, you know? So, congratulations.
All right, anyone else? And let me just say, as we met in our planning session as late as yesterday, we want to make sure that you know now it begins in the unincorporated Chatham County first, okay? So those businesses that are in unincorporated Chatham County who have been affected by the pandemic, those are the first. And I'll also say too that the municipalities have monies that they can use in this as well, okay? But our responsibility first is to unincorporated Chatham. But if we have to expand that because we have to spend the money, okay? And we don't plan on sending no money back because it go back with penalty and interest, and we don't plan on doing that. So I can attest to the expertise of listening to the ladies, Ms. Blackshear and Emily and the rest of them, as to how they can help them do step by step, right? So, and also you can say now, it will not be available on our website until April 1st. 1 week from today is the first time they can go in and do the qualification, okay? And once the qualifications are met, then the application goes out. So we want to make sure everyone understands that, all right? That's the process we have to do, because we have to respond to everything that the feds send this way. We have to qualify ourselves. We have to vet everyone going in so that we don't get no backlash of fraud or any of the other kind of stuff, all right? And not reporting numbers on. So if no other commissioner has any other questions? Thank you, ma'ams. All right. And we look forward to the work ahead. All right, thumbs up. Good. Okay. Now we can go to the transmittal. I saw Ms. Davis come in. She go back out?
Can we go ahead and do the?
Yeah, we're gonna go ahead and.
That one's connected. The second one that goes with the, this is for the small business program, just to
Okay.
keep those together.
All right. Number 3, request board approval for the county manager to sign the MOU for the ARPA funds awards through the Small Business Grant Program. Is there a motion?
Second.
Properly motion and second that the request be granted. Are you ready for the question? Let's please vote. All right, thank you.
All right, we'll ask, our finance officer, Miss Amy Davis, if she would, please come forward. She's in the room now.
Okay. She was in the room. She keep disappearing on us.
Okay.
Huh?
Is she out there? You disappeared on the transmitter. You're just trying to flip me out. What are you doing?
I apologize. It went straight over my head that this was on the action calendar.
Okay.
But this is informational only. This is the audit of our federal grants. And it's just to ensure that everything is in compliance with all the rules, regulations in place, and we passed with flying colors. It also gives you a listing as of June 30th, what those grants were outstanding, and I think I sent you an update in February on what our current balances are. We have since received quite a few more, so. Any
All right.
questions?
Any questions from any commissioner? Any questions?
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Okay?
I could have done it, but I wanted her to do it.
Yeah. All right, let us go now to our bi-monthly report from our chief.
Yes.
Chief Hadley.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll call up Chief Jeff Hadley, if he would come up and give us another glowing report.
Chief, I'm double chief.
Chief.
All right. Well, good morning, everybody.
Morning.
Glad to be here. I have obviously my presentation, and I also have a list of items that to cover that's not on the presentation that is reflective of work that's being done in the various districts throughout unincorporated. So I'm glad to be here, and good morning. This reflects our Part 1 crimes balanced against 2021, 2022. At below, you'll see our total crime is 2.6% below 2021 and 8.2% below 2020. We've only had 6 robberies year to date as compared to 17 of last year and 10 in 2020. Random thefts from yards are up a little bit this year, and mail and package thefts continue to increase. We relate that to much more online shopping and packages being left at people's doors where they're unattended and people are not home. Ring doorbell has been a great piece of technology for us relative to investigations, as well as our flock camera system that you guys have supported. So, moving on, overview of the beats and total Part 1 crimes per beats. This reflective of those Part 1 crimes within the time frame throughout the various districts. Beat 1, which covers parts of Commission Districts 3 and 4. The dots will represent the crimes between January 23rd and March 19th. Excuse me. Beat 2 covers District 4, Tulahi Island, Wilmington, Johnny Mercer, that corridor over there. Moving on to Beat 3, which covers Districts 1 and 3, Nottingham, Dutch Island, Parkersburg, relatively low crime occurrence in the time frame. Going on to Beat 4, which is within Commission District 1. Again, our biggest problem is Walmart and shoplifting, which we have very little control over. Going on to Beat 5, parts of Commission Districts 1 and 4, Skidaway, Burnside, Pinpoint, etc. Moving on to Beat 6, which covers Districts 3 and 8, That's probably our lowest crime occurrence of any district in the county, as you can see, and it's historically been that way, a lot of industrial areas. Moving on to beat 7, parts of Commission Districts 5 and 7. Berwick being a little bit of a problem area for us. Lamarville and Westlake has been extremely quiet really for the last 6 months. So we're very thankful for that. We've put a lot of effort into that area. Moving on to beat 8, which covers Commission Districts 5 and 6. You got Georgetown, Sugar Mill, 204 and 95. We'll get to some other things about that later on. It's obviously a very busy, probably our busiest district in unincorporated. And moving on to beat 9, which has represented 5 different districts, 5, 6, and 7. You got Gateway, Quaco, and again, a very busy area for us in Gateway. Moving on, as I mentioned, 204 and 95, we had a wonderful meeting with 4 hotel managers about a week and a half ago, trying to get our arms around how we can collaborate and communicate in a better way to assist in their issues. As we know, that tends to be a problem area for us. We had a wonderful meeting. We tried to explain some of the constraints that we have relative to misdemeanor offenses and how currently with the pandemic restrictions still at the Chatham County Detention Center, that many times we're only able to process those offenders and they're released right back out. And that's not a knock on anyone, it's just the reality that we face, with the environment that we have. But, I thought it was a very productive meeting. I thought they were very appreciative of it. We'll continue to collaborate as much as we can. Moving on, interagency cooperation. I know Commissioner Whiteley, you had asked about how we interact with the other agencies. This was a multi-jurisdictional effort relative to one individual that committed 12 commercial robberies. We pooled all our information, was able to get a federal indictment on this individual, and he is currently will be sentenced to federal prison. So it was a great collaborative effort between Garden City PD, Savannah PD, Chatham County, and the U.S. Attorney's Office. Our favorite topic, the school zone cameras. They were up operational for a warning period in Isla Hope Elementary, so they'll be up for 30 days. People will be issued warnings for going 11 miles an hour or over the speed limit in a school zone. And so we'll see how that data plays out and how we're able to reduce that as we're going forward.
Question.
Yes, ma'am.
I have a question. Somewhere either I read or I saw in a memo that in the school zones, this goes on for all day, not just during school hours.
That's correct. So the school zone cameras are on from an hour before school starts and an hour after. When the lights are flashing, the speed limit is reduced by 10 miles per hour. Okay, and then they stop flashing once after the last bell in the morning, and then in the evening when they get out of class. There's school activities that go on throughout the day. There's children that come and go. There's buses that come and go. It has been communicated and articulated in many ways and in many formats. I think that's probably the biggest misconception. The cameras, and that's by state law, the cameras are operational for the entire school day. They're not on the weekends, they're not on spring break, they're not on any day that they don't have school, but they are operational throughout the entire school day.
Because I think that's a little bit of a misunderstanding with people that are traveling, say around lunchtime, and aren't aware that because the children are already in school, that this is not being enforced. But what you're saying is it's being enforced for the entire school day.
That is correct, and you only get a citation if you're going 11 miles per hour or over the speed limit.
Going 11 miles an hour over.
Can I answer the question?
Yeah.
Hold on, so you can still get a ticket if we're not in school zone, school times, right? Or it's just while children are in school?
That's correct.
Gotcha.
You can't get a ticket by the cameras. Now, you could get a ticket by an officer.
Right.
You can't get a ticket by the cameras.
Thanks.
Slow down.
And Commissioner Farrell, the gentleman referenced the P.O. Box issue, we took care of that, just so you know, so. Some community engagement that we've been involved in. Here's some pictures of visiting with children in neighborhoods. We honored these Marinex employees. If you remember last summer where there was a boat fatality, unfortunately, in the river, in which a boat had hit a barge. The occupants were catapulted out of the vessel. The driver unfortunately did not make it, but there was a mother and child, a very young child, I believe a 5-year-old boy, that were in the water. These employees that were on the barge and were not wearing flotation devices jumped into the water and saved the 5-year-old boy and the mother. So we wanted to honor them with a Citizen Service Award from Chatham County Police Department. So we went out to their place of work, gave them an award, thanked them, and just wanted to highlight the work that they did on the water. They were very courageous and acted very swiftly. If they did not, we would have had 3 fatalities instead of 1. So kudos to them. And then we did a Ogeechee Farms neighborhood cleanup on Monday. We went out with 6 of our officers, 3 citizens out there. We picked up about 200 pounds of trash in a small geographic area. But I also wanted to mention, as we went out there, honestly, I expected more. Director William Wright and his crew had been out there. They did a wonderful job cleaning up the ditches. So I just wanted to highlight his people for the work that they do. They were actually out there also at the same time we were doing some other stuff. Director Anderson and his folks out there relative to code enforcement, I know they've been out there working to the extent that they can, you know, looking for code violations and how to try to clean up the area and make it prettier. And so one thing that struck me is the citizens that came out with us were so prideful of living out there in Ogeechee Farms. One lady has been there 60 years. She was born out there, continues to live out there, and they were just so, I thought it was just a great exercise of mutual collaboration between us and the community, because not only did they feel like the county cared, at least that's how I felt, but also our officers getting to feel the appreciation from the community about that type of work. You know, you could probably opine that that's not the work of the police department to go around and pick up trash, but I would argue differently. I think that fundamentally we need to show that we care. And if we have the resources and the time to do it, then we should do so. So I thought it was a great exercise for us to participate in that, and I think the citizens were very thankful. We will continue to do things like that with them as we go forward. This reflects our citizen contacts. For the time period, we had almost 1,000 contacts in the last 8 weeks. The red dots reflect that throughout unincorporated Chatham County and all the districts that y'all represent. And I also wanted to highlight Telecommunications Week. I wanted to thank, is Diane still here, our partnership and the work that they do. They are the gatekeeper in this community for a lot of things. They are tasked with trying to decipher and translate critical information from folks that are in a highly emotional state or dealing with a crisis that they're not accustomed to, trained to do. And so they do such a wonderful job, and I just wanted to thank Diane and her team for keeping us safe and keeping the community safe. So thanks, Diane. Appreciate it. And Commissioner Rivers was at the Exchange Club. Officer Joseph Robinson was honored by them as Officer of the Year for 2022. So just wanted to highlight his work, and he brought his family, his wife, 5 children. He's Savannah born and raised, and really cares about the community. So I wanted to thank Joseph for his work, and Commissioner Rivers, thank you for being there and supporting him. And so a couple other things of note that I wanted to bring up. Commissioner Lockett, we got those speed trailers installed on Lansing and on Washington. So we'll have some data to reflect what they say probably at my next presentation.
I'd like to say this too. Your report was well received out there, and the neighbors are complimenting you, not me, for the progress that's been made out there. And thank you for that
Well, I
report?
appreciate it. It's a collaborative effort. Engineering was out there, Assistant County Manager Michael Kegler. So we're out there trying to make it better. I think we have some good ideas as we go forward. Hopefully those will pan out. We can bring some relief to particularly the folks that live on Lansing and the speed. Let's see what else I had. We had a great meeting last night on opioids. I asked Director Sarhat if I could bring this up. It was a good meeting out at Islands High School. Commissioner Stone, thank you for coming. I understand you brought a family member there. Tara Jennings was there. She's always there to support everything. She's just a great partner for everybody here in the county, so I want to thank her for all her work. But I thought that the message was compelling and meaningful. We didn't have as many parents and students as we would like, but what I think that it's kind of counterintuitive. I think what it did reflect is, wow, they really needed to be there. And so I think that really kind of prompted the BOE, Principal Butler, who's a wonderful principal out there in Islands High School, to work harder to get more folks there to hear that message, because I thought it was very compelling. And I want to thank Director Sarhat for all the work that he's doing to try to raise awareness and attention to a very significant issue here in Chatham County. And I look forward to supporting him in the work as we go forward. Today we have 3 recruits graduate from the academy, and I say that in this note. I know the clerk is going to swear them in later on. It's she tells me it's one of her favorite duties. So, but one thing I wanted to highlight to them, of those 3, we had high academics by one, and another one was high firearms, and he's also the class president. So we really kind of hit a home run with that group, and really wanted to thank them for their work and look forward to working with them as we go forward. And lastly, before I take any questions, we had a great meeting yesterday with Chuck Kearns, Phil Koster from EMS, trying to understand their challenges relative to response, some things that we can do on our end from the law enforcement side to try to minimize their workload, make sure that we're dispatching EMS to the things that they need to be dispatched to, and making sure they're not going to things that they don't need to be at. So we had a great meeting, appreciate their relationship and friendship. We'll be putting together some training for our officers so we can be a little more clear and concise on what we expect from them. So appreciate the work we did with them. And so with that said, I'd be happy to answer any questions that you may have.
All right, any commissioner? Commissioner Stone and 1. Commissioner Whiteley and 6. Okay,
Thank you,
Commissioner
Mr.
Stone?
Chairman, and Chief, thank you for being there last night. That was a pretty alarming presentation about the dangers of opioids and fentanyl in our community, but it also addressed the co-problem of mental health. So, Mr. Chairman, I really hope that we can work with the school board to try to get the message to young people. There was an outstanding video that was testimony of many, many young adults who had been addicted to opioids, some who were able to overcome it, but the majority who could not, some resulting in death and some resulting in prison. So I would hope that possibly a video like that would be allowed to be shared or should be shared, of the dangers of what this drug really does, because from what I can understand, it's not just a matter of going and getting treatment. This actually affects the brain. And the testimony of these young people and what they had to say, that they would give up everything just to get high, whatever that meant, whether it meant getting water out of toilets to mix with the syringes for the heroin, it was god-awful. And you all, this does affect our children. It affects the mental health of people. And I think we really, really, really need to work on an outreach program to help steer young people away from this type of addictive behavior. So anything I can do on that front, Mr. Chairman, I'll be happy to. That was a pretty alarming video for my colleagues here. If any of you wanted to see that, I'm sure that the commander could arrange for that, but it's a pretty sad, daunting video.
All right, Commissioner Whiteley.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Chief, thank you so much. I just wanted to, commend you, your staff. I dare say, proudly say that I think we got the best police force in Chatham County. And just to be such a tenant and true example of community policing. Over 1,000 touches that weren't about policing, but just about engaging the community. And I think that is amazing. I think that is what we need. So I want to thank you for that.
Thank you, sir.
And also want to just show my appreciation for the work in Ogeechee Farms, because I know, as we all know, they're not commending staff, Mr. Wright, Public Works, 3CM, the management. I know it can be challenging, and I know I ask a lot of questions, but I just hope that my accountability does not overshadow my appreciation for what you guys do and what you guys are doing, because I know that the citizens surely appreciate it. So thank you so much for that. And the last thing I want to say is it is beautiful to see the spirit of the Chairman's One Chatham initiative being displayed within law enforcement, to see the collaborative effort between the different law enforcement agencies to do good things is just an example of how we together can do so much more for Chatham County. So thank you.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much. I appreciate your comments.
Commissioner Farrell.
It doesn't want to respond, but first of all, thank you for coming out to the islands and making the presentation with Director Sarhat. A suggestion, if that program could be made available to some of the private high schools in Chatham County, just as an offer.
Absolutely.
I think that we could reach a captive audience, and just for not that there's a problem in any school, but the more faculty, staff, and students know about this big problem that's affecting all of America, I think the better they'll be able to deal with it going forward in all of their lives. And I wanted to float one idea about when you mentioned speaking with Chatham Emergency Services. As a representative for Skidaway Island, I see that we have an ambulance that goes out there every day on average. And if there's a possibility that we could stage an ambulance at the precinct on Whitfield to be a little closer to an aging population. It's just an idea. I don't know any of the details, but if y'all could talk about that, I would appreciate it. Just a thought.
They're welcome to stage at any of our precincts. That's not a problem.
Could you say that a little louder?
They are welcome to stage at any of our precincts. That is not a problem. They do not have to ask permission.
Thank you. Yes, sir. Appreciate that.
All right, anyone else? All right, Chief, let me ask you to get with Director Sarhat, and you all get with Chief Enoch from the school system. And then if you all could come up with a plan, and then you could present it to myself and the superintendent, and then we can talk to the headmasters of the private schools.
He was there
so
last night.
Hmm?
Chief Enoch was there last night.
Okay, but I'm just saying, you said you wanted to get it
Yes.
in front of the school children. And
Yes.
for them to see that, so if the three of them can organize it and then tell us how it needs to be rolled out, it'll be more, I think it would be more helpful then, if you can present what the idea, rather than bringing us in and say, what do y'all think? All right?
Yeah, if we can get an audience with Dr. Levette, and I know she couldn't be there last night,
Right.
that'd be wonderful
Yeah.
for Director Sarhat.
And that way, you can present what you need to present so that she could take it before the school board and get it done, because I know the county commissioners are in support of that.
Yes,
okay?
sir.
They've already begun that work, Mr. Chairman, because some of it is going to have to be tailored to certain grades, because as you saw last night, some of it is pretty intense.
Yeah.
So they're already working on that. The next one, last night was a pilot to see what went good, what went bad, what we needed to change. So the next one will be live streamed and filmed, and then we can put it out there and people can watch. And obviously, we would suggest to adults that there are some things that can be a little intimidating to younger children. So,
Well-
but anyway, that's begun.
You know, I guess I'm not an expert, but sometimes the fear factor is good. I don't know how age appropriate that is, but just seeing the struggles of these young people that I would imagine younger children might look up to their peers that are teenagers, and their testimony of their struggles was pretty convincing. So again, I don't know what is appropriate. I'm not in that field, but I certainly would like for people to be exposed to the dangers of going down that road. And some of it is, as we all know, is perfectly innocent. It starts with a prescription from a doctor, and then can escalate if, and I think doctors are becoming more careful, but certainly in the past, these prescriptions were given pretty freely. And some people, by no fault of their own, coming out of a surgery, took these, and for whatever reason, their chemistry, they're hooked. And it is quite tragic. So I don't know what is too young, but when you look at the statistics of that and you know that this is our future, we need to really do our part to alert young people that these are the true dangers.
That's where we're gonna involve the schools and
Right.
lean towards their expertise and guidance counselors, insight to see how it's tailored. So thank you
And
for that.
that's why I say if they
Yeah.
can get together and
Yes.
make the pitch to the superintendent, then they can tell you, based upon their federal laws, state laws, what is age appropriate, what we can do. We have maybe to refine the presentation. So, let's leave that up to you all to do.
Yes, sir.
All right, and then you tell us, and then we can get it done, all right?
Yes, sir. Absolutely.
All right, thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody.
Appreciate you. All right, going to the action calendar, no one expressed any desire to take anything off. All right, so may I have a motion to accept the action calendar in its entirety?
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
Properly motion and second that the action calendar be accepted in its entirety. Are you ready for the question? Please cast your votes. Okay. All right. We go on to first readers, and the first reader is just being read into the records. There will be no questioning or answering of any kind. Request board approval to repeal the fire protection service tax and replace it with the fire protection service fee ordinance. It's read into the records. Now let us go to the second reader, our first. Proposed amendment to section 2 definitions and section 3.3-6.1, location of accessory building on residential lots, to create a definition for accessory buildings, residential, and to establish development standards for the use. MPC file number Z-0122-000-218. The Planning Commission recommend approval of the proposed amendment to the Chatham County zoning ordinance in section 2 definitions and section 3.6.1 location of auxiliary buildings on residential lots, text amendment, accessory dwellings, and we call on the manager?
Yes, first, if you are here for item 1 or 2, item 1 being the accessory building, which will be explained by Mr. Marcus Lotson from MPC. If you have comments, want to speak, you need to sign up. If you're here for item 2, which is the Johnny Mercer issue, please come up if you intend to speak and sign up. Thank you.
Okay.
I'll turn it over to the expert, Mr. Lotson from MPC.
Thank you, Mr. Manager.
You're welcome.
Thank you, I appreciate that. Good morning, Mr. Chairman and members of the commission. As you mentioned in the opening, this is a text amendment, a proposed text amendment to the Chatham County zoning ordinance. And we haven't come to this commission in recent time often with text amendments. So by just the way of a little bit of explanation, a text amendment is any time you change the language, the existing language of the ordinance. And we've been working with county staff on reviewing the ordinance and proposing some changes, and this is the first one that we'll be coming to you with. It's related to accessory buildings. There's been a number of compliance issues that the Building Safety Department has been trying to address throughout the county as it relates to accessory buildings. And in our discussions with them, we've determined that there needs to be some strength added to the ordinance in terms of the language to make life a little easier on them, frankly. Currently, there is no definition for accessory buildings in the ordinance. That's a shortcoming, we feel. An accessory building is typically a building on a residential lot that is subordinate to the principal residence. So it may be a detached garage, a carriage house like you'd see downtown for example, any kind of separate building on the same property as the principal building. But due to the lack of a definition, oftentimes the county has to make a determination on a case-by-case basis as to what is accessory. Sometimes these buildings are attached in a way that would make them not accessory because they are attached, and we're trying to address that too. So if you see a storage building, a detached garage, a pool house, something of that nature that is detached, we would typically consider that an accessory building. There's provisions in the current ordinance as to where accessory buildings can be located. Typically, they're required to be within rear yards only. There is an exception, however, in the county ordinance that allows them to be in front yards on certain properties. Because the county has a lot of marsh and riverfront property, it was found necessary to allow an exception in those cases to allow accessory buildings to be in the front yards. So as you ride places like, say, Wilmington Island, for example, you'll notice oftentimes a detached building is in the front as opposed to the rear, and those are permitted. They are permitted, however, with a number of conditions. Those conditions include the maximum square footage of the building, the height of the building, and the compatibility of the building with the principal residential dwelling. So we also are going into this ordinance to make some specific improvements, we feel, to that language so that it again becomes easier to enforce. The definition we're proposing is proposing to amend Section 2, which is the definition section. 2.1A would become accessory buildings residential. This would be a new definition that we're proposing to add to the ordinance. That definition reads as proposed as follows. Any detached building on a residential lot that is subordinate to a principal residential dwelling and is typically used for lodging, storage of vehicles, household or recreational equipment, or other similar uses. For these purposes, any building connected to a principal building by a breezeway or similar architectural feature greater than 10 feet in length shall be considered detached. And the reason we added that final language is because there are a number of cases throughout the county where people have attached accessory buildings to their principal residences to consider them attached. Really, it's just a way of skirting the regulations, so we felt it was important to make that change. Additionally, in that section, there's a provision in the ordinance related to electrical meters, and this is also related to accessory buildings. Accessory buildings, or let me back up. On residential lots, typically only one electrical meter is permitted. The reason for that is the county does not want people having multiple dwelling units on a single family residential parcel. And that was a way to kind of get around that. So because of that, only the 1 meter is permitted. One thing that the county runs into occasionally is that someone who, say, may own a dock or a barn or some other kind of non-lodging detached building could need power to that building. And in the case of very large lots, it's often difficult to get power from the principal residence to, say, a dock that's 900 feet away in some cases. So what we're proposing is that language be amended to allow a second meter in the case of a non-habitable structure. So we're proposing to add language which says accessory buildings or structures shall not have their own electrical meter with the exception of marine docks, barns, and similar structures that do not include habitable space. So oftentimes, citizens would come before the Zoning Board of Appeals to request a variance for a second meter in the case of a dock or a barn or something of that nature. And they're routinely approved if they can exhibit that they've got special circumstances related to distance from the power or things of that nature. So we felt like in reviewing that section, that would be an appropriate change. Specific to the conditions related to accessory buildings and front yards that I mentioned before, the ordinance currently, as I mentioned, allows a maximum 900 square foot building footprint. That is another condition that is often requested to be varied. The reason is that flat number is not necessarily appropriate for every piece of property. So we felt like it was important to create more of a sliding scale of size based on the size of the residential property. So the larger the property, the larger accessory building you could have with the cap. Same thing with the height. The height for accessory buildings within front yards are limited to 1 story. However, 1 story is not defined in terms of number of feet. So of course you could have a 12-story, 1-story building, or you could have a 20-story, 1-story building. But it's not specific in the ordinance. So what we're recommending is a change to the maximum height to be related to the principal building on the site. However, again, with the cap, not to exceed the height that's permitted in the zoning district. Relative to the sliding scale that I talked about, the proposed language is that if a residential parcel exceeds the required lot area by a minimum of 25%, then the square footage or building footprint may be increased from 900 to 1,200 to a maximum of 1,200. And if it exceeds the parcel's required minimum lot area by 50%, then it may be increased up to 2,000 square feet. And then for residential parcels of 2 acres or more, there will be no maximum. However, they could not exceed the maximum footprint that's building coverage that's already allowed in the zoning district. So in consultation with building safety, we believe these proposals will clarify the accessory building portion of the ordinance and make it more enforceable going forward. So with that, I'll open up to questions, Mr. Chairman.
All right, any questions for Commissioner Stone in 1? Is there anyone else? Commissioner Milton in 5. Is there anyone else? All right, Commissioner Stone.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is of great concern because we're finding on smaller lots, people are trying to put more buildings. I would like to know how the International Building Code affects this, because in 2018, I was going through the ordinance for a piece of property that they were adding a second building in my neighborhood. And I read that a second detached house in an R1 was not allowed. However, magically, because of the International Building Code, a secondary building, habitable building, could be put in an R1 as long as it was connected by an open breezeway. This particular breezeway is in excess of 40 feet. So I'm a little confused as to what is going on here, because we took an R1 in that situation and put 2 habitable dwellings on it and said that that was perfectly acceptable as long as it was attached by a breezeway with no identifiable length or no maximum or minimum length. So I'm a little bit concerned because the construction of that property actually lowered my property value. And I still have some questions that pertain to me personally that I will not bring up here. But I'm just very concerned I was told that what was in the ordinance did not matter, that it was simply the International Building Code that overruled what was in the ordinance.
Oh, do you want to say something, Mr. Anderson? Sorry, I'm not trying to.
Tag team. Tag team.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board.
Sure.
Certainly, as it relates to the building code, certainly the building code, these provisions will not affect the building code at all. When you get a permit, you still have to meet the requirements of the building code as the building code is currently written. Certainly, these issues address the zoning portion of it. R1, certainly, as the zoning ordinance dedicates it, is the same. What we're talking about today is just accessory structures. As Mr. Lotson indicated, the breezeway length has been defined now, which was not defined in the ordinance previously.
But is it defined in the International Building Code?
No, there's no breezeway definition in the building code. I believe the issue you're talking about, as the zoning ordinance identifies, and again, we didn't have a length of a breezeway back then, if it's under the connection between two buildings, then it becomes one building. Certainly that building code does allow that.
So does the International Building Code supersede?
No, it does not. It does not supersede the zoning ordinance at all. If a building is connected with a breezeway, and again, prior to today, that breezeway was not defined on what the length was. If that building is connected by a breezeway that has a roof over it, it's considered one building. Now we have a provision that's being proposed today that allows a breezeway to be a maximum of 10 feet.
I guess where I'm not going to belabor this, I'll save this for later, but my point is that I was told the International Building Code is what dictated the ability of a breezeway to connect two dwellings, even though the breezeway is completely wide open, to make them one. So I'm just, I think.
The International Building Code at that time said it had to have a foundation to it, it had to have a roof over it, and it had to connect the two structures. It didn't say it had to have side walls to it, and it didn't say it had to be a length. And they defined that as a breezeway under that, connecting two buildings that fit into the zoning code. What we're trying to do now is to come back and stop that sort of thing. At the same time, you gotta be flexible enough to give enough length in the breezeway that if you're actually gonna do a detached building connected to the breezeway, that your roof overhangs and the other things on either building are sufficient distance apart to meet the fire regulations. And 10 feet seemed like it was a pretty good compromise. That would fit bigger houses, smaller houses, mid-sized lots, and smaller lots. What you're seeing in construction these days are L-shaped houses. If you think of the L, that'll be the main body of the house, and then they'll put, on the lower portion of the L, they'll put the garage in the front yard, but it's attached, which is permitted, but it puts more house out front of the yard. And they're doing that so that they can build on a smaller footprint and build more house. And we've designed setbacks and area coverages to try to allow that, but minimize the effect where you can't put a 5-car garage on a fairly small lot. So that's kind of the background. And you're not gonna please everybody. That's just the bottom line.
Did you get to your answer?
I think so, Mr. Chairman. I think some of my questions I would address at a later time, but
Okay.
thank you, Mr. Chairman.
All right, Ms. Middleton?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Here we go. So my question is, and it can be for either of you, the garage apartment, you mentioned the height level, that the height level cannot exceed the principal. If I'm doing a garage apartment, the garage is gonna be at the bottom and the apartment's at the top. Is that permittable
Well,
with this ordinance?
this ordinance speaks strictly to accessory buildings. So it could be a garage, it could be any kind of, could be a storage building. But the height will be capped by the height of the principal building and the height that's permitted in the zoning district. So it could not exceed that. Right now, the language, when you have an accessory building in the front yard, it just says that it has to be 1 story. So for example, if you have a 1-story principal building, your accessory building now, if this is approved, could go to 2 stories, but could not exceed the maximum height permitted in the district.
Okay, in the district?
Yes,
Okay, not
Yes.
just the principal house?
correct.
And is there a maximum number of buildings on a single lot?
There is not a maximum number of buildings allowed on a single lot. The number of buildings, or let me say this, the only thing that gets to that issue is building coverage. So there's a maximum permitted amount of building coverage for a lot based on its zoning district. So that's just footprint, on the lot. That is an issue we've talked about. Capping the number of buildings that are permitted, because technically you could have 2 or 3 accessory buildings on certain lots if you got enough room to do that. And in the county, some parts of the county, we do have very large residential lots. So could you have a detached garage and a storage building? You could, if you didn't exceed the maximum building footprint. We find it very difficult to talk about a cap on that because of the differences in all the lots. So if you're on 2 acres, it might be fine for you to have your house, a detached garage, a storage building, and say a greenhouse or, some other building. On smaller lots, it's harder to do because you're gonna start getting up against the building coverage maximum. So we have talked about number of buildings because there are some examples where people have a number of, say, storage buildings on their property. But that's a very hard thing to codify from a zoning standpoint.
Thank you.
All right, any other questions from commissioners? All right, do we have anyone who signed up, Mr. Manager, for this particular portion?
No, sir, not on this item.
Okay. Yes, sir.
We're talking about now allowing power meters to docks, but it's based on the necessity of having the inability to run electricity from the main house to the dock, and I understand that purpose. We're not necessarily in favor of just going out and willy-nilly granting power sources to boat docks. And the reason for that is we've had over the years a number of times where people have bought a lot that happens to be on the water. And they've gone out there and they've built a dock. And then they've decided, well, we're not gonna build a house, it costs too much money. But we're gonna invite everybody we know over every weekend to camp out on the dock. And needless to say, the immediate residents around there complain profusely about having Party Central next to them. So that was the original reason why we were very conservative in the granting of additional power. But we do have situations in some of these long, skinny, narrow lots that run 600 feet or so, that running it out and then having to run it across the marsh to get to the dock space creates problems with just being able of electrical capacity to do it. So I think this is a legitimate compromise to try to do that, but it shouldn't be taken as, it's open season to build a dock and have a party every day.
All right, all having been said, is there a motion? Hello?
This,
Properly motion and second. The first ready to be granted. Are you ready for the question? Please vote. Okay, all right. And now, excuse me as we read through this, straighten me out on the pronunciation. I terribly hate mispronouncing people's names, okay? But some of them I can't say, and I'm not ashamed to say I can't say them. The petitioner, J. Malvin, am I right?
Maupin?
Malvin, okay, P.E. Agent for David, who? Massaro, and James O. Creech Jr. is requesting rezoning from R-1/EO, one family residential and environmental overlay, to R-3-12/EO, multifamily residential, 12 units per acre, gross acre, and environmental overlay, zoning district, MPC file number Z 1021-000179, PIN 100460221, comma, 10046022019, and 10046022013. The Planning Commission recommend denial of the petitioner's request and approval of an alternate to rezone the identified property from R-1/EO to R-3/EO multifamily residence, 6 units per acre, rezoning 7672 Johnny Mercer Boulevard, District 4. Mr. Latson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And this is a zoning map amendment request. The petitioner's requesting to rezone the highlighted properties you see before you. These are 3 undeveloped parcels on the east of Johnny Mercer Boulevard and south of the Johnny Mercer Highway 80 intersection. Located here is highlighted. Property is approximately 4 acres in size, and the petitioner is requesting to rezone them to a designation that would allow this to be developed as a townhome development, which is the R3 zoning classification. In terms of the background on this, the petitioner initially filed a request to rezone this property to R312. R312 would allow a maximum of 12 units per acre on this 4-acre site. In our review initially of the zoning petition, we thought that based on the size of the property and some access issues that I'm going to share with you here in a second, that a lower density could be appropriate at this location, but that the 12 units per acre were probably not appropriate at this location. The applicant did hold a neighborhood meeting with members of the community to explain their proposed project. As you know, there's been a number of pieces of correspondence associated with this. We had a significant amount of participation in the MPC hearing from the public related to this property. This is a vicinity map that shows the area around the subject property. As many of you know, the area along Johnny Mercer is somewhat of a transitional area. There's primarily residential uses. There are some non-residential uses in that corridor, but single family and townhomes are typical in this area. But one of the issues that initially came up when we began having discussions with the applicant about this project was the access to the property. The property abuts the 10th Street and Charles Street rights-of-way, which are unopened, and they're shown here, and I'll give you a better view of that here in just a second. But as you can see, this access point and this access point, which circles around to the 9th Street right-of-way, are all unopened rights-of-way, which would be required to be improved to the county standards should this property be developed, and that will be the applicant's responsibility. As you can see, the property is currently zoned R1, which is a single-family residential classification in the county. Adjacent properties include the R2 zoning, which permits duplexes. The property immediately south and east of this property is another townhome development, Bull River Bluff. And let's see, we got another map here. Oh yeah. An aerial map of the subject property that shows the structures that are immediately adjacent to this property. I mentioned the access points around the property, and what you're looking at here is essentially the area looking from Johnny Mercer along the 10th Street right-of-way. There is an existing bicycle path which goes along this right-of-way and then across the Charles Street right-of-way, which is adjacent to the property, and then back out to Johnny Mercer Boulevard. The applicant will be responsible for improving this to the county standards, and they have had a number of conversations with county engineering as to what would be required to do that. This is the right-of-way as you go back toward Johnny Mercer along what is the 9th Street right-of-way. And this is the Charles Street right-of-way, which is essentially today, as I mentioned, a bike path. In conversations with county engineering, the applicant understands that should this property be developed, they'll not only have to provide adequate vehicular access in this area, but they'll also have to locate this existing bike path and maintain it. It will be maintained as a bike path in this location. Relative to the zoning, the proposed zoning district, we did find to be consistent with the development pattern in the area. There are a number of townhome developments within the immediate vicinity, a number of other single-family residences, and the zoning that the MPC has recommended, which is R36, which is 6 units per acre, is lower than most of the adjacent residential zoning specific to the nearby townhomes. We believe that based on the applicant's concept layout, they could achieve likely up to 24 dwelling units on this property in the form of semi-attached townhomes. And based on those findings and the information provided, the Planning Commission is recommending approval to rezone the property from the R1 designation to the R36 designation, and the existing environmental overlay would be maintained on the property.
All right, now, any commissioner have any questions for Mr. Latson? Only Mr. Latson. All right, Commissioner Milton from 5. Anyone else? Okay.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman. So we talking about reducing it from the petitioner's request from 12 to 6?
Yes, they originally requested R312, which would be 12 units an acre. Once they sort of refined their concept plan, I think they realized, and we had a discussion with them, that that number of units that would be permitted under that district was going to be too dense for this property. And I believe they're in agreement with us on the proposed reduction.
Did MPC recommend denial on the 12?
Yes, ma'am.
And you
And
got
approval of
together
the
to
6.
agree on the 6?
Yes.
And the access points,
Mhm.
because of where it is, how does that affect the existing residents?
Well, and let me go back to that, because that's one of the things we spend a lot of time talking about. Actually, this is probably a better way to identify this. So this unopened right-of-way, which is the 10th Street right-of-way, only these properties will be accessed by that. The Charles Street right-of-way, which is along here, like I said, is currently essentially a bike path. So the applicant would be required to improve this right-of-way and this right-of-way along its property line to gain access to this property. Other properties adjacent to this do not use those rights-of-way for vehicular access.
So right now, it's not a through.
Correct.
So when it has to be opened up, so the existing residents will experience increased traffic.
Well, I think that the development of the property and the number of units that are created will, create more car trips. I think the residential that's around here has separate access points that are not these, but generally on Johnny Mercer, more car trips will be created by this development.
And the bike lane that you spoke about, who would
Yes.
maintain that?
The applicant will be responsible for relocating it within this existing right-of-way. I believe currently it's a county-maintained bike path, and it would continue to be maintained by the county, but it would be the developer's responsibility to relocate it as they improve the right-of-way.
Okay, I think that's it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
That's it from all commissioners? Okay, don't we have the
I
petitioner?
believe the
here?
petition is present,
All
Mr.
right,
Chairman.
you want to address us?
Good morning, Mr. Chairman. Patrick Connell on behalf of, and Commissioners, Patrick Connell on behalf of the petitioner. Thank you for the opportunity to address this project. We had a PowerPoint that
What is that?
And we're going to try to keep this brief.
In a second.
Okay.
There you go.
Thank you. All right, so as we've already noted, we did agree with the county that the R36 zoning would work for our project. That would, at about 4 acres, give us a total of 24. As you can see on this map, this in the pink is PUD-EO. In the middle, the black line drawing is actually our property, our proposed layout of that property. And what you're seeing here is that this is, what we're proposing is multifamily that's surrounded by a lot of other similar multifamily, most of which is already at a higher density, as Mr. Lotz pointed out. Really, this is to fill a need. We all know what the housing needs are in Savannah right now. It's basic supply and demand. The less inventory you have, the more expensive the supply becomes. If you look here, I'll run through this real quick. I don't know who may have seen this or not. In this market dynamics, we're seeing that, look at February 22 here on the right-hand side, and you can see the change between February 21, we're 40% lower on homes for sale, 16% lower on under contract, and 34% lower on the number that were sold in that year. Here's the median price. You can see it's gone up 11.7%. Oops, this thing's touchy. Here's a quote that I thought was interesting from Forbes. A realtor here, Andy DeFelice, saying that she's competed with 17 buyers for single properties at times. It's like having a piece of gold sitting on a piece of dirt. And the main factor is identified as the lack of inventory. And here's a Georgia Realtor slide showing just the inventory. Historical months of supply is an industry-wide tracker that kind of tells you how healthy your housing market is. One benchmark that's thrown out there fairly frequently is that you want to have within your market 6 months of inventory available for your consumers. You can see where we are currently in February of 2022. We're tracking about 1 month, which is just driving that price up steeply. So the idea of these developers here is to get some density there so that we can meet market demands. And while these will not be what we consider lower income homes, by providing more opportunities at this level of the market, it eases up market tensions on properties that are under this level of cost. And so as there's less available at this level, people will start going down into other neighborhoods because they desire to be in Savannah or need to be in Savannah no matter what. So they've got to find something they can afford. If we provide housing at the middle of the market, what we're trying to do here for entry-level and elderly folks that need a smaller space but still want to have a single-family home, that eases up some of that tension at the lower level. What we could see here from the opponents, that yes, there was a large letter writing campaign. Let's see if I can go back. But if you look, thank you very much. If you look at the list of the signatories on that sheet, you'll see 98% of those that signed that petition, there are like 267 people, 98.5%, they live in multifamily around this piece of property, and they've got higher density in their developments. Of the signatures on there, there were exactly 4 that we counted that actually live in an R1 zone. If you look again at this map, you'll see the building with the 2 X's on it. That building was never constructed. It doesn't exist. So when you look at the Bull River Bluff complex, the first building you see is actually the second building when you're out there on the property. And that's really the one, that one building is the one that's actually going to be the most affected by this. As you go on further into it, those remaining buildings, the remaining 4 that are there, everything's going to be about the same for them. We have a 35-foot state waters buffer that we're certainly honoring. The biggest problem for the folks that are on the other side of that buffer that are complaining about this is that their buffer is cleared. That's their backyard. So you can see it goes all the way down with grass to the water line. So they're complaining about we're developing something on the other side of a 35-foot buffer on our side of the property. And that's going to affect the trees and this piece of property, but yet they've already cleared theirs, or the developer did. And then finally, some last minute talking points here. There was a question about traffic, and that's a good question. The number of units here is so small that a full-blown traffic study, is my understanding, is not required. We did, this is Jay Malpin, who's our chief engineer for the project. We did get a letter from, on the traffic, and the count was extremely low.
Yes, ma'am. Jay Maupin, Maupin Engineering. In regards to traffic, we're only talking about 24 units here, which equate to roughly 18 peak hour trips in and out for the site. So we're well below any level of trips per day that even the MPC or the DOT look at for traffic studies.
So with that, I'll stop. If there are any questions, I'll be happy to answer them or reserve my time for rebuttal following public comment.
All right, any questions for, Commissioner Whiteley in 6, is there any other? All right, Commissioner Whiteley.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So is there an intent to make any of these units vacation rentals?
No, the intent here is that these are going to be single-family homes. Yeah.
All right, any other? Okay, hearing none. Now, how many do we have on the list? All right, 14. I'm looking at my time and I'm doing the math in my head as I go. And I'm pretty good at math, though. I want y'all to know I did trigonometry and algebra. All right, so Mr. Manager, if you will call the first person, and when you come up, please state your name and address. All right?
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
Can I make a request that maybe we limit the comments to 2 minutes a person since there's 14?
I ain't got there yet.
Oh, gotcha.
Okay, thank you. I got it covered.
Yes, sir.
That's why I told you I was doing the math in my head. It ain't gonna be all day. No, that's why he said 14, right? All right, please come up and state your name and your address, and you got 3 minutes, and when you see me do my pencil like that, you ain't got 3.1. You got no more. All right? Yes, sir.
All right, and no, no criticism, but I'll do the best I can in reading, and my handwriting's a lot worse, so. I believe the first is Cameron Spencer or Spence?
Spencer, okay. Please come up and state your name and address.
Good morning, I'm Cameron Spencer, and I live in that first building that's going to be most affected. First unit,
And then give us
Height
your address
problem.
now, because we don't know what first building is, so you have to give us the address.
okay, I'm sorry, it's 14 Bull River Bluff. My concern, of course, is that this has been reviewed twice in the past since we've been, since the Bull River Bluff has been there. And the current situation has been retained. I understand that things have to be rezoned, but I thought rezoning was always for the benefit of the community. I don't know that this rezoning benefits Wilmington Island that much. It certainly contributes to Johnny Mercer traffic, and I don't have any illusions about that. In the summertime, the traffic is incredible there, and I can't think that 24 more multiple family units would not contribute to the traffic. We've gone over about the tree canopy, et cetera, but I'm just disappointed because I really thought that there would be more reason to build than to offer more dwelling places for people who might think of moving down to Savannah. We are concerned about the tree canopy. We are concerned about pollution and change that could not help but be negative. That's it. I have
Thank you.
nothing more to say.
Thank you, ma'am. Next.
Richard Lambeth.
My name's Richard Lambeth. I live at 123 Sweet Gum Road on Wilmington Island. I'm here in support of the project. My wife and I moved to the island 20 years ago as a full-time RN and a paramedic supervisor. We stretched to get to that location. 3 years ago, as my mother-in-law became elderly, we wanted to move her from Holt Summit, Missouri, so we could assist her. And we found it challenging to try to move her to the island. We ended up putting her in she did not want to live with us. She was still an independent woman. And we ended up moving her to a 3-bedroom, 2-bath in Pooler, which was my hometown when I grew up. To get a similar home on Wilmington Island would have been almost double the cost. And it just was not within our ability to make that happen. I support this because of the fact that we need more inventory in this county at this time. My personal taxes are going up dramatically as an effect of the 11% increase in cost, you know. And I just think that we need to, Wilmington Island is nearly built out. There's no large parcels of land to be able to make any more redevelopment. Small developments like this are really key to being able to make it accessible. As the island grows older, there's fewer young families out there. They're empty nesters that'll be in the same situation my wife and I were in, needing to move elderly family members to them, or children needing to move closer to their elderly family members that already live out there. And this, by expanding the opportunities out there, I think will be supportive of our community in that area. And it is minimum traffic. And working in EMS in this county for many years, the beach traffic is much worse than the residential traffic. Thank you for your time and your service to our community.
All right. Moving on, Mr. Manager.
Yes, Karen Mandel or Mandel?
Good morning.
Good morning.
I'm Karen Mandel, 13 Bull River Bluff Drive. I also live in the first building. Excuse me if I read from this. I'm very passionate about it, and I get a little nervous. That building is directly across from where this development is supposed to occur. So, of course, I have a personal interest here. But I am representing the other residents in the Bull River Bluff community, the surrounding communities of River Trace, River Point, the Shoals, River Walk, and those along Johnny Mercer. And again, from the petitions, you can see we have over 250 signatures, and we're all adamantly opposed to this. This area is currently zoned, as you said, as single-family residence, and we're asking you to keep it that way. I know the MPC said, and the developers keep saying, well, the adjacent houses are all townhouses. Those were built in the 80s. I mean, we can't do anything about that. This is a new, era. Environmental awareness is supposed, maintaining green spaces. We can't do anything about what's happened in the 80s, This is one, if not the only green space left on Wilmington Island. And in an ideal world, we'd like to see a park or community center, something that, would leave the environment intact and benefit the other people in the existing communities. But of course, there's no profit for that to the developers. They say they want to help people build more houses. They can still do that if it's maintained as single-family dwellings. They can build affordable single-family homes instead of the pricey, high-density, high-end, 3-level garage and 2 levels townhouses that they're planning on. In this market, they're going to be $500,000. They could still have, help people by, keeping it developed for single family. But again, that's not going to, get them where they want with their profit. They're looking for the big profit. Single family homes, less impact on the environment, The traffic, which if you live there, I don't care what the studies or anything else says, it's bad. The noise, the light pollution, the view, the wildlife. You know, I've been an RN for 45 years, registered nurse. Tough job. I came here for the peace, serenity, the view, the environment. If what these developers do, all that'll go away, and our price values will be affected, of our homes will be affected as well. The developers, they don't care about that. They care about the bottom line, their profit. Karen Jarrett over at the MPC said it best. Zoning should not be changed for profit. So we're asking, please deny this rezoning request. Help us keep our environments and our communities safe from being destroyed by the developers. Thank you all for your time.
Okay, moving on, Mr. Manager.
All right, Vivian Garalchani, or did the best I could. Okay.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners. I'm Vivian Garacani, and I live at 19 Bull River Bluff Drive on Wilmington Island. I urge you to deny the petitioner's application for rezoning to multifamily of any size. If I understand correctly, the current zoning, the owner of the property has the ability to construct up to 5 units per acre. This means 20 homes could be built there. This is only 4 homes short of what the developer is asking to build. Why is this issue of rezoning so important to me? Because I'm extremely concerned that if this land is rezoned to multifamily of any size, it will pave the way for any developer in the future to potentially and easily request rezoning to build 12 units per acre or even more. Furthermore, this could be the go-ahead for other properties in that area to be rezoned as multifamily. So where would it end? Rather than you give the green light for more multifamily properties in the already highly congested area, why not keep it zoned as residential single-family homes? The comprehensive plan of 2040, which was very recently approved by the county, is a well-thought-out plan and was developed by so many professional individuals as well as public's input. And it has been published several times over showing this particular area of land should continue to be zoned as single-family. Again, I urge each of you to vote no on this application and keep the land as it is now, single-family. Thank you so much for your time and your consideration.
Thank you, ma'am.
Elaine Ardonomy, or?
Ardenone, she ought to know.
Okay. I got it, okay.
Good morning to all of you. My name is Elaine Ardenone, and I live at 35 Bull River Bluff. I'm in the second building. One of my biggest concerns is exactly what Vivian just said. If this is approved, then what happens right next to it? This isn't just 4 acres. Let's continue down. The people that live right next to it have said at the meeting that we had, oh yes, I've gone to every meeting. And she said, I knew this was coming. I'll probably sell next. So that's right behind my building, which would then come before you in the MPC. One of the things that I really want you to think about is I listened when Ms. Stone spoke a moment ago. And what did she say? That is affecting my property value. That is affecting me because that's where she lives. So of course she was upset about that breezeway, etc. So when we come before you, you want to think about who are we right behind there. We, of course, when we bought, we assumed that it was zone single. So we didn't think about that that could be a possibility in the future. So I guess I want you to think about it. And also, 3 stories high, think about how towering that's going to be and how that might look over. I had asked at some of the meetings about a buffer, you know, like when when the new stadium was built. I'm sure the people behind there were concerned. Could there be some kind of a buffer? Because I'm sure they don't want to look out at a big complex looking back at them. So there were some concerns about that. And also, experience of these developers. What I was trying to ask at some previous meetings, could you show me other multifamilies that you've done before? Because I'll go look at it. I was trying to say, is it going to be more like by Brian Woods, the new buildings that are there? You know, so I was just trying to say, show me so that I can keep an open mind and see that maybe we could work within the parameters so that we could all be happy, but I don't feel that they ever did. I felt they just kept mansplaining to me. That's what I felt. So I guess we didn't have very good feelings about the way the developers approached this or spoke to us. And of course, it matters to us because it's where we live. I want to thank you all for your time today.
Got it right on time. She got it right on time.
All right. Patrick, I believe, Connell or Conrail?
Kyle, I'd already spoken.
Okay, so you're good. Okay. Trip Bass. Wow, that was a good. Thank you for making that easy.
I'm Trip Bass. I live at 107 Cromwell Court. I am in favor of the project. There's always going to be opposition to any project. I've been on the islands since the late 1970s. It's been quite a while. I've seen all kinds of changes. I've been for some projects and against some projects. When it comes to property value, sometimes property value, we may think it's going to be decreased, and it actually is increased over time. So that's hard to really gauge sometimes. But from, we're in different economic times right now, and so this is going to provide more jobs, and when you provide more jobs, then those workers are going to spend at least a portion of their salaries at businesses, mom and pops, local businesses throughout the community. And then furthermore, I think you do have to look at what you're going to lose if you don't approve a project like this economically. You've got all the new tenants that will be there, which in an economic sense are new buying units for the community. And so there'll be multiple units, buying units per townhome there. And if you extrapolate those numbers out over the next 20 to 30 years, there's going to be a considerable amount of money that's going to be re-implemented into the community. So I would like to see that y'all vote for the project. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, sir.
All right, Dr. Bernetta Smalls or Bernita Smalls?
I'm Dr. Bernita Smalls, and I'm a 42-year resident of Chatham County. And I'm in support of the project. Being a prior real estate agent, I have noticed that there have been a major, and I'm sure you have, decline in property growth in Chatham County. So I look at this as bringing to the table more housing for the residents of Chatham County. And I do believe that, as our last speaker came before us, there will always be opposition, but the greater point is we all are being heard. Thank you so much.
All right, Tom Houston. Back home, we would say Houston, but I'm hoping it's Houston. See, there you go.
Hi, my name's Tom Houston. I live at 1505 Walltower Road, which is on Wilmington Island. And I do feel that there is a shortage of residential properties in Chatham County, and I do support this project. Thank you.
All right. Okay. Tom Nitz? Niece? Okay.
My name is Tom Neese. I'm a retired home builder. As we've all heard and know that we have a very shortage of homes in Savannah. This project will create jobs. There's plenty of job opportunities in Savannah. If you can't find a place to live, you're not going to move here. So I'm for this project. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Mickey Miller? Say, she did phonetically, so that really helped. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Mickey Miller. I live at 23 Clipper Court out on Wilmington Island.
I purchased my townhome 16 years ago, and the board jokingly calls the association for the newlyweds and the nearly deads. And so that's that price point for people out on Wilmington Island is very rare. It's greatly needed that we have more properties like the townhomes. We have a lot of apartments where the rent is now almost triple what my mortgage has been. We have a lot of homes that are in that $500,000 to $600,000 price range, but getting those townhomes is greatly needed out there. So I am in support of this, and I appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Elias Clements.
Morning.
Good morning. Good morning.
My name's Elias Clements. I live at 2427 Easy Street over in the Sandfly area. And as a younger prospective home buyer, I'd love to see more property on the market. I've got a lot of friends and close people to me who are very frustrated trying to buy houses at this time. And I hope to see you all vote yes on the proposition.
Chaz Smith.
Good morning.
Morning.
My name is Chaz Smith. I live on 816 Omler Loop on Wilmington Island, and I'm a general contractor. My dad's been a builder for 20 years, and I can see from personal experience that they need more townhomes on the island. If they were to build single-family residents, they would cost considerably more, $600,000-$700,000 range, and it's hard for single families now and retirees to pay that much for a home. The townhomes would be much more desirable. Thank you.
I believe Samuel Williams.
I'm Samuel Williams. I'm the pastor of the Faith Missionary Baptist Church, 115 West 49th Street. I want to say that we know that for the last few years, a couple of years or so, there has been a boom in population for Chatham and for Savannah, and there has also been a constant growth in job development through the port. Thousands of people work there, and thousands of people that have been projected will be coming in, and to find businesses that are to be located here. Of course, I'm concerned about this project, but it does not meet, of course, the affordable housing aspect of 13,000 people who are already, who homeless, and about 19% of those are seniors. But this particular housing situation would be, I think, an asset if it meet all the requirements, and it would help people in that area because it would give access to some of those people who are going to be moving in who have the ability to live in these areas. So it would be an access for those people, and so therefore I'll be in favor of it, and I hope that it meet all the qualifications, and it will allow people of all of the surroundings to live in any area, and there will be new housing as well as the old existing housing that already exists, and it would give them, give the county and the city more pull upon people who move here and who would like to move here. So I'm in favor of the project and hope that it will be developed.
All right.
That is the last speaker that signed up, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Having heard that, now is any board member now need to get in the last? All right, Commissioner Stone.
Mr. Chairman, would you, rebuttal?
Rebuttal?
Rebuttal is, in all of the way we do the hearings, we do a rebuttal to
That's an
correcting.
MPC.
Well, we've done that in here. That's been the procedure.
All right. Okay. Okay. And we're gonna keep him to the same time limit we got the rest of them?
Brief.
Oh, okay. Short.
Mr. Chairman, thank you for I will keep this very brief. There was some talk about why don't they just build affordable single-family homes? And I think that's just a misunderstanding of the reality of the economies that we are living in today. We know every day when we go home, we hear about the cost of inflation. When you build single-family, it costs more just by virtue of the fact that when you build multifamily or attached single-family, as we're building in this case, you're able to share walls, you're able to bring things closer together, you get economies of scale, which is why a project like this can be put on the marketplace, still being a single-family unit, but being put on at half the price that you would be able to put a full-size single-family property on the marketplace, just because of pure and simple economics, nothing to do with the bottom line that the builder is going to actually receive from the sale of the property. Thank you.
All right? All right, now, Commissioner Stone?
Yes, I want to make sure that I understood this correctly. Under the current plan, they could put 20 houses, and then what you're asking for is 24, is that correct?
The current zoning, which is R1, only allows detached single-family.
Right.
Based on the acreage, they could probably get 10 detached single-family houses. Under the requested zoning that the MPC is recommending, which is R36, it allows attached single-family, which is what the applicant is proposing, and they could probably get up to 24 units of attached single-family.
Okay, so a difference of 14 units.
Yes, ma'am.
All right, anyone else from the commission? All right? Oh, I'm sorry. Listen, I wrote it and then I missed it. I apologize.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just want to say that as Mr. Bass spoke about it, it's been a lot of change on Wilmington Island, and for those people that live in Bull River, I can't tell you how many people opposed that development years ago when it was first established. And look at where you are now. So my feeling is, I guess, because they have agreed to do the 6, which minimizes the traffic, I'll vote my conviction. Thank you.
All right? May I have a motion? Yes,
Can I
ma'am.
ask one other question
All
real
right,
quickly?
one question from
Just in
Commissioner
the
Stone.
spirit of some type of a compromise, would the developer be willing to help in the buffering of these units to perhaps make it more palatable to the neighbors?
I will go back and point out, there is a 35-foot buffer that cannot be disturbed.
Okay.
It's wooded. We're not going to disturb that buffer. It's already 35 feet. And so I would submit that there is a nice big buffer on our side of the property. Problem is, on the other side where they live, there is no buffer. It's grass.
Gotcha.
Okay, thank you.
All right?
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
I'd like to make a motion that we approve the second reading of the rezoning request as stated in our agenda.
Got a motion?
Second.
Properly motion and second that we grant the petitioner's request as stated by the MPC. All right, are you ready for the question? All right, please cast your votes. All right, all votes in. Okay. Let's move on. Mr. Manager, we're on you. Information item?
Just in the interest of time, we did include a report from my office. If you would take a look at, I know all of you have been very interested in our recreation events, so we try to make sure you have those so you can attend. And I will say, for those of you who attend, we get emails and texts, and parents and the kids appreciate when you go. So thank you for doing that. Update on Second Harvest is there. We also included the county grant awards. That was part of information requested, and the Eastern Circuit Public Defender's Office, based on some questions we've been getting, did a very thorough update. Lastly, we do have 1 p.m. today press conference / media event as to the small business grant program. We will be announcing, and that begins on April 1st.
All right. All right, that having been said and the agenda having been accomplished, There is a need for us to have executive sessions for appointments, for litigation, any of those?
Did you have personnel or appointments?
Yeah, we got some appointments.
Appointments, personnel.
Yes. All right, may I have a motion?
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Properly moves that we move into executive session. Please vote.